I want to play you an extended clip from an interview that Trump did with Daily Mail that is honestly difficult to sit and listen to. You can tell even the host is having a difficult time because he fails to jump in and ask any follow-up questions for way too long. And so we'll just dive into this. I'll play a bunch of it for you. This is what we're talking about, though, with Trump losing the thing that allowed him to drive a lot of news cycles, which was with all of the vile stuff, he at least would be entertaining enough, would drive ratings enough to cause media outlets to sort of do what he wanted them to do, which was give him attention. But now in speeches, as we've talked about a lot, and even in interviews, he's so rambly, so free association with his thoughts and just delivers verbal diarrhea and then leaves no opportunities for the interviewer to jump in. So the interview just stays absolutely silent throughout this. Take a look. So here's the first question. Then watch how far Trump goes away from it.
Thank you, Mr. President, for sitting down with us in your home today.
Thank you.
We have a huge amount to get through, the campaign, policy, but I think I want to start off by saying, well, we now know that Vice President Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are going to sit down for an interview with CNN tomorrow. What are you expecting from that?
Well, I think it's crazy. She's gone months without talking to the press. She's not talking to anybody. She is copying, they would call it flip-flopping, on everything she's believed in for the last 20 years. She now says, well, she'll frack and, well, she'll do walls, but she doesn't mean it because she's a Marxist. I mean, she's absolutely a Marxist or beyond that. And nobody's ever seen anything quite like it. She's gone back on about 14 different policies all at once. Interestingly, a political historian I just left, we were talking about some things, and said, in history, on occasion, somebody will go back on one major policy and they'll change. She's gone back on every single thing she's ever said, which means that she's not going to do any of it. She's only doing it to get elected. And I think the public's not going to stand for that. Pennsylvania has to have fracking. She's never going to frack. She's going to have open borders. She's going to allow hundreds of millions of people into the country over a 4-year period. She'll have 100 million people coming in from prisons, from mental institutions. She doesn't believe in any of this stuff, which tells you from a character standpoint, it's terrible. I mean, she's so dishonest. She doesn't believe in any of it. She wants to have everybody having an electric car and no more gasoline propulsion, no more hybrids. Every single thing, the Green New Scam, she was absolutely one of the people that developed the Green New Scam. They don't talk about the environment anymore. They don't want to talk about it because they know it's bad for them in terms of the voter. So they've come here. She came in with no votes. Biden, as you know, Biden got 14 million votes, and they said you're losing.
So I don't want to jump and just play you clips because it'll seem saner than it is if I do that. So just continue. I know it's painful, and then I'm going to go through and address all the crazy points he's making, but this is not normal. Just
to Trump by 20 points, and you're not going to win. The poll came out at 20 points after the debate. They said, you're not going to win, and Joe, we want you out of here. He said, I'm not getting out. They said, you're getting out. And they got him out. And he's very humbled, and he's frankly, he's a very angry man, because I know people that know him very well, and I know him very well. He's a very angry man. And she got no votes. She was the first one out, and now she's running. Think of it. Whether they had 22 people, nobody knows how many people. They had a lot of people running. She came in last, meaning she was the first one out. She never made it to Iowa. She got not one vote. A lot of people got a lot of votes. And she's the one that's running. But then she's doing something else. She wants not to do the debate. We're doing a debate, I think, but she wants not to. She'd love to get out of it, but she's not meeting any of the press. And it wouldn't have to be a killer like you. It could be somebody that's very friendly to her. And I guess she's doing that with Dana Bash.
Well, so tomorrow night, I mean, given...
Okay. 3 minutes and 14 seconds. And I'll show you the follow-up question. Shame on this interviewer. A terrible interview. With someone like Trump, you don't sit down, ask one question. Can you remember what the question was? Think about all the things Trump just went through. What was the question? It was about the CNN interview. He didn't say a thing about it until the very end. It just popped back in his head. He's genuinely doing, I, in times of stress, am encouraged by people to get into journaling. And they say, just do sort of just barf onto the page anything that you think, free association of thoughts. You can abandon a sentence mid-sentence, jump to it, just get out your thoughts on paper. It's like he's sitting in therapy being asked to do that and just going through every single random corner of his mind as this interviewer has no motivation to jump in and say, well, I'm going to actually, because we have limited time, I'm going to cut you off. Because at the beginning he goes, we have a lot to talk about. So let me, start with this. Well, you're not going to get to much if you don't ever cut him off. 3 minutes, Trump goes on and on as he sits silently crazy. So let's see, a few different points I was just jotting down in my iPhone notes as Trump was going. No, Kamala Harris is not a Marxist. And he tries to act like she's doing some crazy thing with policies and flip-flopping on everything. The policy campaign she's running is pretty obvious. Given the Biden-Harris record, it's in line with the effective governance we've seen from them, and then some more bold ideas as well. She is not in favor of open borders, as shown by her supporting a strong border security bill that Trump is responsible for shooting down, getting Republicans to do that in Congress. He said that 100 million people will come into the country under Kamala Harris. How do you, as a MAGA person, go, well, I like you, Trump, but that doesn't make any sense. That's not even close to true. Again, see border policies present and what are being advocated for by Harris, and that's not true at all. My colleague Jaden just told me, and you can look at this on screen, we're going to put on screen. 5 million views last week came from people who aren't subscribed. If that's one of you, click that subscribe button, baby. It's easy, it's free, but it makes all the difference. Back to the video. He said everyone's going to have an electric car under Kamala Harris. She has no plans to mandate everyone having electric cars, but instead incentivizing that industry because it's good for so many reasons. He said no more hybrids. Interesting. Referred to the Green New scam, talking about the Green New Deal. Kamala Harris is not trying to or hasn't implemented the Green New Deal. And then he went from saying that they're going to try to do the Green New scam and force everyone to have electric cars to, again, his brain, it's not even what it used to be. And it wasn't super structured then in the way that he would deliver thoughts, but it's even more detached and fragmented and confusing. He jumps from fear-mongering about green policies from Kamala Harris to saying she doesn't want to talk about the environment anymore. You just said she was talking too much about it. What are you talking about? Then he said after the debate, Biden was being defeated by Trump in the polls by 20 points. That's not close to true. Biden was struggling in the polls, but not that. Then he still can't get off of complaining about Biden dropping off the ticket. Yes, he's no longer the candidate. Get over it, Donald. And then said that Kamala Harris doesn't want to debate. She does. That's why they're doing the September 10th debate, and saying she's not meeting the press, but then immediately giving an example of her sitting down with the press tonight. Yikes. So all of that happened, and the interviewer goes, this will be my follow-up question.
And everything that you've said about her policy positions, what are the specific questions you'd like to see Dana Bash ask her tomorrow?
Well, the first thing I want to do is say, why isn't it live? It's not a live interview. It's an interview that's going to be taped and then edited and then put out. So that's not even an interview. Then she's doing it with her vice president sitting there. So she's not very smart. When they ask her a question that she can't answer, she'll just look at him. You answer it.
All right, so stopping there. This is why it's difficult to review Trump interviews. Why it takes way more energy to debunk lies than to tell them, or to push misleading ideas than to, or it's easier to push the misleading ideas than to debunk them. So here, he's acting like, he said it's not even an interview if it's pre-recorded. Most of the interviews Trump does are pre-recorded. His Jesse Waters interview with J.D. Vance, his vice presidential running mate. Now they're all upset that Walz is going to be sitting with Kamala Harris because it's the first big joint interview as a ticket. He did that with J.D. Vance. It was pre-recorded and had edits. Do you remember? And this probably, you can't find a comparable example with the Democrats. With Trump on Fox News, they spliced and diced that interview he did and cut out the part where he strangely talks about Jeffrey Epstein, and it was too embarrassing. They helped him out and cut that out, and then the extended cut, we found it. Kamala Harris will do plenty, including the debate, plenty of live events where she has to go off script and answer questions. This one, as the case with so many interviews, in part because the networks like it this way, because they can more perfectly fit it into their schedule when it's pre-recorded. This one's pre-recorded and other ones will be live. It's just such a strange thing for them to get upset about because Trump does that constantly. This one was pre-recorded.
I can't imagine. Everyone's waiting for her to do an interview because she's been a very big failure in interviews before, as you know, a tremendous failure. And she brings in the vice president, who, by the way, isn't so good himself. He's been a disaster, this guy. He has been a disaster. His state is in a state of shock from his governorship. He's been a horrible governor. You look at employment numbers, you look at the people that are leaving, you look at all of the problems.
Minnesota is doing really, really well by a bunch of metrics. We talked about how they said he's communist, but then it was ranked by CNBC the 6th best business state. How would that sort of capitalism flourishing represent communism? I don't know. And also notice when it cuts to wide shots. Yes, we shouldn't even comment on Trump's whole figure. Looks bizarre. I get that. Just sort of disproportionate, but it's fine. That's not important. But the interviewer is just nodding so passionately. What's so compelling about what he's saying, Mr. Interviewer?
Minneapolis is a burned down. They never built it back. It was terrible. He's been a terrible governor. It was a crazy pick, but he's sitting with her to help her out. So this is not the kind of a person we need as president.
What would you like to see the interview focus on? Her record in the administration, her record as a prosecutor?
Yeah.
What are there any specific things?
We could go on for hours because she wanted to have people come into our country with open borders.
And on to the same lies. So we'll stop it there, but you can go back. That wasn't a good example, but in some of the clips, the interviewer just, oh, interesting. And then just sitting silently for long gaps of time as Trump lies. And then his third follow-up question throughout this long period of time is just the same question. He says, with no injection of truth, just, CNN interview tonight. What do you think of that? Trump goes on, tells a gazillion lies, doesn't address them, and goes, all right, so what do you want to be asked? Oh, interesting. So what do you want to be asked? I don't know who this is. Let me see if I can get it sat down with Daily Mail. Not seeing it quickly, but really bad interview there. Let me know what you thought of all of that in the comments. If you want to support this show and get the members only bonus show where today we're going to be talking about all sorts of interesting things and having a good time, you can do it by clicking the join button below.